Uh, I think we can start, guys. It's already 6:01 and a couple of you are already here. So finally, we're towards the end of Industrial Revolution, the chapter we've been discussing for the past two sessions. So today it's part 3, right? So before delving deep, I just wanted to say good evening, everyone, and welcome back to your own channel, Scholars. I'm Nikitha, and I'm the history educator here at Unacademy Scholars channel. I take classes for both standard 11th and 12th. And a little bit about my educational qualifications. I have graduated from Ashoka University very recently. I have a major in history and a minor in political science. Um, yeah, Trisha is here with us. Hi Trisha, good evening. Okay, I'm hoping others will also join quickly in the next 2-3 minutes. Yes, Trisha, today is the last part for Industrial Revolution. It will be almost be done. Okay, I'll quickly go through the introductory part in the first 2-3 minutes and then we'll quickly start. Regarding Unacademy's plus features, we have unlimited access to courses, we have top educators teaching them on one single platform. Then you can access it at your own houses and learn live. And we have regular doubt clearing sessions, answer writing sessions, practice tests, live test series. Then we also have exhaustive coverage of syllabus, mentorship and guidance, as well as access to study materials, which are usually in the form of PDF. The way you can actually avail these benefits is by subscribing to Unacademy Plus. We have subscriptions ranging from 6 months to almost 24 months. So these are the actual prices, the ones you see on the left. But if you use the code, which is TUM10, you'll be basically getting a 10% off, and these are the post-discounted prices. In the same way, we also have iconic subscriptions, starting with personal mentorship, live doubt solving sessions, weekly reports, parent connect, and also study planners. Iconic also, we have 9 different subscriptions starting from 3 months to 48. So you can choose any of them which you like. These are the actual ones. By using the code, you'll get a 10% off, and these are the post-discounted prices. And nextly, there's something called as Unacademy's Combat Scholarship Test. As most of you all knows, it's a scholarship test conducted in both Hindi and English language. The answer is as such that the format is as such that you will be given 30 questions to answer in 60 minutes. So that's the format. Okay. Manish, I'm not sure about the economics thing, so I'm not sure when economics syllabus will start per se, but yeah. Okay, also guys, I have one important announcement to make towards the end of the class. So yeah. Okay, so we'll quickly start with changed lives. So in the last class, we were basically talking about weaving, spinning jenny, steam engines and all that stuff. So with that as the backdrop, we look at how the lives of the people have changed to a large extent because of all of these technological developments that were happening back in those times, right? So in that case, we have something called the changed lives as the sub-theme to explore further. So the years we've been talking about, starting from 1750 to 1820s, the first industrial revolution period, we have been seeing a lot of inventions, right? Be it in terms of technology, machinery, random inventions, and a lot of inventions have been happening in these 7 decades, right? So it's basically like a revolutionary period in terms of technology. So revolutionary changes were happening. Alongside that, if you look at the rich people, like wealthy people, they have so much money and they have even the guts and bravery to invest in some sort of technology or invest in some sort of business, hoping that they would get profits, right? So in that case, obviously, if they get profits, it's a good thing. If even if they don't get profits, they are risking their lives, they are risking their money, right? They have been doing that, but honestly speaking, in most of the cases, they did amazingly well. Whatever investment they were making, whatever capital money they were putting in, it has been multiplying a lot, right? So basically, rich people were getting even richer with all of these profits. They were lucky enough. So that's the scene of rich people. So generally, wealth, right? Like wealth can be in the form of money, wealth can be in the form of gold, wealth can also be in the form of services and sometimes knowledge, right? Productivity, efficiency, these are all together called as wealth. So this wealth has been increasing dramatically in these 7 decades, right? So basically, the economy has been doing really, really well. That's not all. That is not the only positive picture we will be seeing. On the other side, we have the lives of ordinary people. What are they doing? Are they benefiting? Is it a loss to them because of all of these industrial revolution thing? Like, what's the scene with normal, like ordinary masses? That's the important question we're supposed to explore, right? Frankly speaking, it has been the worst. Yeah, very horrible situations, horrible incomes, horrible standards of living, like no proper sanitary conditions, nothing. Everything has been so bad for the lower class people, right? So all of these, like not just in terms of economy, right? It's broken families. Now nobody wants to live in a joint family, because if you live in a joint family, expenditure will be more. People don't want to invest so much money because they don't have the money in the first place, right? So families are being broken. Then we have new addresses because people have been shifting from rural areas to urban areas in search of work. Then we have degraded cities, like no proper sanitation, no proper water facilities, right? And also finally, we have very bad working conditions in the industries, in the factories. So basically, when it comes to ordinary people, conditions have been much, much worse when compared to the before stages, right? So that's the distinction we're supposed to make between richer people and poor people. Rich are becoming even richer, but on this other side, poor are becoming even poorer, right? So that's the point. Any questions still here, guys? In case of any questions at any point of time, feel free to drop a text in the chat box. If there are none, then probably I can go ahead. Okay, so in terms of the city's situation in England, right? Like what's happening in the urban areas. So if you consider the year 1750, which is before the Industrial Revolution actually started, there were only 2 cities in England which had a population of over 50,000. Only 2, right? But a century down the line, in the year 1850, it's not 2 cities anymore, but in fact we have 29 cities which have a population of more than 50,000. What do we see here? A rise in population. Cities are becoming very, very crowded. More and more people are migrating to the urban cities, right? So there's like a demographic shift, there's a population shift happening in England with the introduction of Industrial Revolution, right? Yeah. So Sahil is here with us. Hi Sahil. Good evening. Good to see you after so long. I am doing well, Sahil. How are you? Um, okay. So, growing of population or growth in population is not necessarily a bad thing, right? ठीक है, like people are increasing in number, cities are getting crowded. That's okay because honestly, that's not a problem. But overpopulation becomes a problem when the other conditions are not growing along with the population, right? For example, housing. As the people are increasing in number, the number of houses are also supposed to increase, directly proportional, right? Otherwise, so many people have to live in the same house, it becomes congested, it is not clean anymore, right? Because more people staying at one place, it becomes obviously messy, no proper water conditions, right? So, when population is growing, the other features, other provisions are also supposed to grow. Only then there will be a balance. But in the case of England during Industrial Revolution, this this thing is not happening. Only population is growing, but other provisions are not growing. That is a problem, right? That is definitely a problem because people will be fighting for houses, people will be fighting for water, various other basic facilities that they need in life, right? So in that way also, conditions of poor people was really bad. And then we have the other aspect of it where all of these migrated people who are coming and settling in the urban cities from rural areas. Again, why is the scenario happening? We have seen that people are moving away from villages because agricultural revolution was taking place, right? If agricultural revolution is taking place, then there's no need for people in the villages, right? They don't have any work in the farms. Though that is why, in search of work, in search of income and money, they have been migrating to the urban areas. And obviously, if they're coming more and more in number, there are no sufficient houses in urban areas. So, what is the only option they have? Creating overcrowded slums. Right? All of us know what slums are. So, very bad living conditions, very poor conditions, very congested spaces. Right? So that is exactly the scenario that was happening in England during Industrial Revolution, where overcrowded slums have been taking place. On the other side, if you look at the richer people, they have enough money, so they're going somewhere far away out of the cities, probably like suburban areas, outskirts of the cities, where the air is much clearer. There's no pollution there because not much people live. There's provision for water, that to like clean drinking water, like safe water. Where all of these provisions are available, rich people are escaping and building their own houses there. Right? So, whatever situation you see, richer people are safe. But it's only the poor people who are suffering. Right? That is basically what industrial revolution is. Rich people are becoming richer, poor people are becoming poorer. Right? So, yeah. Okay. Sahil, we're actually doing the third part of Industrial Revolution, which is the ninth chapter in your textbook. Term 2 syllabus. But yeah, it's almost going to be over by today, Sahil. Ronak. I mean, I was assigned this channel, so like I have to teach here, Ronak. No, Ronak. I don't know anybody by that name. Okay, looks like your term 2 exams are already starting, guys. Trisha says her exams are starting from 6th December for term 2. Okay, that is quick, I guess. Okay. Any questions till here? Please let me know in the chat box. Otherwise, we can move on to the next topic and talk about the workers, right? The condition of the workers, basically. Anyways, so if you look at the workers' conditions, again, they have been worse. Just putting it right out in front of you that the condition of workers have been really, really worse. Now we will look at why it has been worse, right? So if you look at one of the survey that was conducted in the year 1842, towards the end of the first industrial revolution, it's a survey on the lifespan. Again, what is lifespan? Lifespan is the average number of years that a person will live, right? Roughly for us now, I think it's around like 60-65 years, right? But if you will be very surprised to know what was the lifespan of people back in those days, and especially the workers. It's horrible. It's just 15 years in Birmingham. You just have 15 years of life. And then it was 17 in Manchester and then 21 in Derby. Different cities, right? These are different cities. Whatever the situation is, even if you take 21 years, that's still lesser. Just imagine a person living for 21 years and dying. That's his life. That's not a good sign, right? The better the more the number of years, the better the lifespan. It's a good thing. But honestly, 15, 17 and 21 are not good years when it comes to lifespan ranges. But that is the situation in 1842 in England, especially the condition of the workers. Yeah? Okay, got it, Trisha. Now I understand why you have exams so early. Okay, Narmada is here with us. Hi, Narmada. Yes, Narmada, what's your question? You can put it down in the chat box. Anyways, type it down. In the meanwhile, I'll continue to the next point. So, basically the point here is more people have been dying at a relatively at a very younger age, right? Again, all of that can be attributed to the poor working conditions. Again, everything goes back to sanitation and health. Only if your health is not proper, then you'll die early. That health is deteriorating because of bad working conditions. Even at homes, it has the condition has been really, really bad, right? So even like infants, right? If not infants, like young children, like children below 5 years of age, they had some or the other disease, like no proper health. Half of them died even before they attained the age of 5. That's worse, right? So the increase in the population of cities, why is this happening? It's not because people who are already living in the cities, they have been reproducing a lot. No, that's not the condition. The amount of the number of children being born in the urban spaces remains the same, right? Let's say a couple used to have 2 children in the past, they're having 2 children in the present as well. But where is this difference coming from? Why is the population growing so much? The major reason being because of migration, right? People are moving from rural spaces to urban spaces, right? So that's why this increase in population has been happening. Okay, so going back again to why these deaths have been happening, honestly speaking, all because of health. And what specifically in health? It's because there are so many epidemics happening, right? It can be either because of waterborne diseases or airborne diseases, right? Poor quality of air, the AI index is really bad, or sometimes even the water is being polluted, right? We know all of these diseases which we get because of bad quality air and water, like cholera, typhoid, tuberculosis and stuff like that. So because of that, deaths have been growing very largely in number, and therefore you can expect that obviously there will be a reduction in the lifespan, right? So just mentioning one incident where there was an outbreak of cholera in the year 1832. It has been like the most horrible year in the history of England, especially when it comes to industrial revolution history. Almost 31,000 people died because of that one single outbreak of cholera in 1832. That's like, I don't know, guys, just to give you like random comparisons, try to compare it with corona, right? Lakhs and lakhs of people are dying because we have crores population right now. Lakhs are dying. But back in those days, we only had lakhs population, and in that also 31,000 people died at one go in 1832. That's horrible, right? That really is a very horrible condition. And you might have a question as to what the the officials have been doing about this, right? There needs to be some municipal corporations, some municipal authorities, or even the king himself or the government. How have they been responding to this? Honestly speaking, they didn't pay much attention. They were very negligible towards all of these dangerous conditions. They know for a fact that there was an outbreak of cholera, people are dying, but honestly, these authorities have not been taking any precautionary measures, right? No proper health facilities, hospital facilities, nothing. So government part is nil, like administrative part is nil. But people have been dying on the other side because they don't have that particular help, nor the money to get them treated, right? So yeah, any questions till here? Cool. If there are none, probably I can go ahead. Yes, Trisha, we will run quicker because we have a lot to cover, honestly. Cool. So, talking about women, children, and industrialization. Till now, we have like generally seen what the condition of workers is, but now we'll have a special look on what the condition of women and children are, right? Because of industrialization. Before industrial revolution, generally women and children did not work. Like even if they did like part-time jobs or just work helping out the male members of the family, not like a full-time job, because their duty was just to take care of the family, the children and stuff like that. Yeah, but one revolutionary thing which happened because of industrial revolution is that women and children are also supposed to work. It kind of became mandatory because it's not something that the government is mandating, but to support their own family because they don't have proper incomes, women and children are voluntarily working because they need money, right? So let's just have a look at the condition before industrial revolution. What did children do? What did women do? Like especially poor people. They worked at their homes, or sometimes they assisted the male members of the family in their farms, like agricultural lands, right? When the labor is not available or something, they used to like go for a few hours into the farm, work and come out. They were always under the supervision of their parents, like there was that protection for the children, right? And in case of women, they reared livestock like cattle, hens, poultry and all that stuff. They gathered firewood, obviously because they needed to keep themselves warm, and small other activities like spinning yarn by using spinning wheels in their houses itself. They never stepped out of their farm or the house, right? But if you compare it with the situation that has been happening during industrial revolution, it's exactly the opposite, right? Now their work is not at their own houses. They have to step out of their homes, go to a completely different place, which is a factory or industry or something, and they have to work there continuously for long hours. Reports actually suggest that people used to work for almost 16 plus hours during industrial revolution because they were exploited by the rich people, right? And they were very strictly supervised by a few supervisors in the industry, and if they're not doing the work, or if they're taking a break, or if they're not doing the work correctly, stuff like that, they were very severely punished, and people were obviously afraid of this punishment, right? And that's how they used to work. Yeah. Coming to the earnings of women and children, they were not that great. Even men's salaries were not that great. It was very, very meager, right? Let's consider a scenario where only the male member of the family is working, women and children are not working. I don't think the family would have run very easily. They would have had to take loans, borrowed money from some other people, just to buy food and pay their rent of the houses, right? For such a situation to not occur, that is why women and children of the family are actually going to industries and working to supplement men's meager wages. So at least combined sum of all of these people will bring in some sustainable standards. Yes. And also, as the use of machinery spread, yeah, we have discussed this topic, how machinery was replacing men. Yeah, that has been happening in England. The more the number of machines, the more the number of people will be unemployed, right? Because whatever the workers are supposed to do, that's being done by machines, so there's no need for workers, right? So obviously they're becoming unemployed, and even for little things where human labor is needed, these industrialists or factory owners, they are preferring women and children over men, because honestly, just consider men on one side and women on children on the other side. Men can easily protest, right? If something is bad, if something is going wrong, if their labor is being exploited, men can take to the streets and protest about the lower wages. But on the other side, women and children will stay quiet, right? Even if there are bad conditions, I don't think they'll complain about it unless there's too much pressure. Yeah, so for these particular reasons, industrialists have been preferring women and children over men. Yeah. And they were employed in large numbers. Again, these are just basic facts, so I'll quickly run through them. Women and children have been employed in large numbers, especially in cotton textile industries, and that too in two particular places called as Lancashire and Yorkshire. Right? So cotton industries it was. Women were also the main workers in silk industries, lace making industries, knitting industries, as well as metal industries. Right? So basically, you look at any sector, most of the jobs are dominated by women and children, not because women are becoming empowered, not because women want to be independent, but it's basically about the negative side of it, because women won't take to streets and protest even if their conditions are bad, even if they are not given proper salaries. Yeah, so understand the irony of it. Women are employed, women are dominating in industries in terms of the number of employees, but what is the use? They are not getting proper salaries. Yeah. Okay. Also, machinery like cotton spinning jenny was designed to be used by child workers, like children. Like hardly children's size of the hand will definitely not be more than an adult size of the hand. But to facilitate children to be working on these spinning jennies and stuff, spinning jennies also became smaller in size so that children could operate it. Right? So that's how, that's the extent to which the work of children and women have been exploited. Right? They have been taken advantage of. Okay, children were often employed in textile industries, but there's a reason. Right? These reasons, honestly, when you analyze them, are very petty reasons. Yeah, you'll think to yourself like how horrible the situations were back in those times. I'll just give you like 2-3 examples. You'll clearly understand the picture of what was happening back in those times, right? Imagine a factory. Machines are too closely placed, right? Let's say one machine is here, the other machine is here, the other machine is here, like very tightly packed. The reason why they're employing children in textile factories is because, for example, if you have to move from the one side of the machine to the other side of the machine, like you have to pass between those machines, the gap is very, very small that only a child will be able to go ahead. I don't think an adult person can go past the machines. There's not much space. So that's how horrible the situations were. Yeah. Long hours of work, obviously. They involved all sorts of work like operating machines to cleaning machines. Yeah. But there have been a lot of injuries also happening because children, they're not much matured, right? They can't take care of themselves properly. So sometimes their hands used to go in between the machines, and obviously their fingers used to be crushed, hands were no longer used, surgeries, broken arms, broken legs, right? Injuries basically. And some even died by falling into the machines. And look at the reason as to why they're falling into the machines. Because they don't have proper sleep. They're very tired, they're very exhausted, they want to sleep. But on the other side, the supervisors of the factories are torturing them. Yeah, they're asking them to work for 16 hours, 17 hours. When will they sleep? Right? So, yeah, now you can imagine to yourself what was it living like in during the Industrial Revolution in England and being a worker. Right? Um, yeah. So, any questions still here? Tanishq, yes, you can go ahead. Just type it down in the chat box. I can quickly answer them. Keep typing. I'll get back to you. Probably I'll go over like a point or something in the meanwhile. Okay, we've just been looking at silk industries, metal industries, textile industries till now. Moving forward to discussing about coal mines. Coal mines is actually a very, very dangerous place to work. Not just coal mines, any sort of mining. It is very dangerous. Not just for children but also for adults it's dangerous. Right? You don't know at what point of time what will happen once you go inside the earth. Like you keep digging the earth, you will go inside because you have to make tunnels out of it. God knows what will happen after that. So it definitely is a dangerous place to work. Because usually explosions used to happen, right? Let's say the surface of the earth is very, very hard, but you have to dig it. It's not happening manually. Therefore, you'll drop a bomb. Explosives. And probably the person who is dropping the bomb doesn't know that there's a person inside the tunnel. He's dead in that case. It's always a very risky and dangerous job to do in the mining sector. Right? Injuries are bound to take place. They're very, very common. Yeah? And Tanishq, I'm assuming you're referring to spinning Jenny. Wait. Okay, so what I understand from your question is you're basically referring to spinning Jenny. The spelling is this, SPI, N-N-I-I-N-G, right? And then spinning jenny. Yeah. So in that case, if that's what you're asking, spinning jenny is basically a machine or tool of sorts where you put in so much of cotton, like raw cotton, and then you spin the cotton and make a thread out of it. We have cotton threads, we have cotton yarn, right? How do we get that? You have to definitely process raw cotton which you get from the fields, right? The process of converting the raw cotton into a yarn or a thread is called as spinning, and that spinning is done on the spinning jenny or spinning wheel, right? Again, I can give you one example though. If you must have seen any Gandhiji pictures during Indian national movement, there is some sort of charka in front of him where he spins his own cloth, right? That basically is one kind of a spinning wheel. Yeah, so roughly that's the explanation I can give, Tanish. But if it's still unclear, then probably I can try explaining it in some other manner. But please let me know if that's clear to you. Okay, so coal mines. Children also used to work in the coal mines, right? So when it comes to coal mines, usually they are narrower, right? Because how broader will you dig the earth? It's not that possible to dig the earth in a very broad manner, and therefore all the tunnels and stuff were narrow. And in that scenario, adult people can't enter inside a narrow tunnel because of the size of the body, and therefore children were heavily used in mining industries if they were supposed to go inside a narrow path. Again, exploitation of children, right? Okay, Tanishq, you understood. Great. Cool. So these younger children I'm basically referring to, they are trappers. They worked as trappers who opened and shut doors as the coal wagons traveled through mines or carried heavy loads of coal on their backs as coal bearers. Multiple tasks. The point is just mentioning the number of tasks that the young children did in a coal mine or a coal factory. Right? They carried coal. They did very menial services like opening the doors, closing the doors, cleaning stuff out of it. Right? So different activities. Children were involved in mining places. Yeah, so then there are factory managers, the owners of the factories. They were also cruel, right? Imagine a 9-year-old or a 8-year-old child working in a factory under such horrible conditions. Yeah, the owners also are not very, they didn't have humanistic principles, right? They are not human enough, and therefore they were also very greedy because they wanted profits, they wanted money, and they have been torturing children, right? So condition has been really bad. And we have one of the evidences from the British factory records. It reveals that about half of the factory workers had started work when they were less than 10-year-old. Again, what? We are like 16, 17. Again, rough average, rough age of you guys is 16, 17. 11th standard students. I don't think any of us at the age of 16, 17 would be willing to go and work in a factory. And that too for 16 hours a day. I don't think we'll be able to do that. But here the situation is less than 10-year-olds. They don't even have like proper maturity. Right? But they are forced to work in the British factories, and they constituted almost 28% of the employees in the factory. Horrible, right? Yeah. thanks, Tanishq. That's well taken. Thank you so much. I'm glad you could understand stuff. Okay, Trisha also kind of resonates with Tanishq. Thanks, Trisha. I'm glad you could gain something out of it, be it English, be it history knowledge, be it whatever, but like, I'm glad you could take something out of these classes. Okay, we'll move to the next point. So, women, right, as I was mentioning, that there are a lot of women working in the factories, but that doesn't mean they have independence. They might be financially independent, they might have some sort of self-esteem that they are getting out of their jobs. Yeah, self-esteem is like that independent life. You don't have to like rely on somebody for your existence. That self-confidence. Yeah, women have been getting that. They are confident, they are financially independent, but at what cost? What all are they sacrificing? What all are they suffering to gain this financial independence and self-esteem? That is the question here. It's horrible, right? The cost is huge because they have been subjected to a lot of humiliation at the workplaces, right? They are not keeping themselves healthy because they have been working for 16, 17 hours a day. Your body is not supposed to function for so many hours. In that case, your health will be deteriorated. And in that case, whenever you have pregnancies and stuff, you will have abortions, you won't be able to conceive properly because health is not good, right? And even if you give birth to a child, the child won't be healthy because you're not healthy, and therefore the child will die at a very early age. You have been living in slums all your life, no proper water, no proper sanitation, worst conditions. You are going through all of this just to gain some sort of financial independence and self-esteem at your workplace, right? I don't think that's a good situation or a good thing for women, right? Okay, so that's the end of one of the sub themes. We'll quickly talk about the next one, which is protest movements. Any questions till the previous slide, guys? Otherwise, we'll quickly move on to protest movements. Okay, I think I'll go ahead. So with regards to protest movements, like what are these protest movements and why are they happening? Again, going back to the last sub-theme where the conditions of the workers are really, really horrible. Yeah. At some point of time, people will voice their opinions. How long will they be suppressed? Right? At some point of time when they are irritated, when they are annoyed, when they don't have any more patience left in them, they'll obviously take to streets and start protesting against those bad conditions, right? That is exactly what Britain people also did, and that is what we call as the protest movement. They have been protesting on the streets, right? And in order to carry out these protests, honestly speaking, British people were inspired by French Revolution. At the same time, when all of this stuff is happening in England, if you look at the contemporary France, there's a French Revolution happening. I'm assuming all of us know something about French Revolution, right? It happened in 1789 to 1794, like for a stretch of 5 years. What's happening in French Revolution? New political ideas have been spreading. French Revolution is all about new political ideas, and those political ideas are liberty, equality, and fraternity. Right? What is liberty? Liberty is basically freedom. Equality, all of us know, everybody are equal before the law. And then we have fraternity, It's like a sense of brotherhood among people, like a community living, right? So that's fraternity. So all of these political principles or political ideas have been becoming famous in France, and somehow the news traveled to England. England people were also inspired by all of this, and they started protesting in the streets saying we also want all of these equality, fraternity and liberty, right? So that demand has also been happening. So obviously they're protesting against these harsh working conditions in factories, right? Alongside that, they also started demanding for a right to vote in the general elections. They didn't have a voting right till then. Only the richer people, only rich merchants, professionals, only few sections of the population had a right to vote in the 18th, 19th century. But in England, inspired from the French Revolution, Britain people also started demanding a right to vote. I'm talking about the workers, right? But government was not convinced. Government repressed all of these protests. In fact, surprisingly, government came up with new laws or new amendments in the constitution saying that people now don't even have the right to protest. That is even worse. It's saying that you can't even like come onto the streets, gather in numbers, gather in large numbers and start protesting. You don't even have the right to protest, leave alone the right to vote. Right? So it basically wasn't successful. The protest movements initially weren't successful. They have been successfully repressed by the British government or the king at that time. Right? Okay. So next slide. England had been at war with France for a really long time. That internal wars have been happening from long back, from 1792 to almost 1815. That's a lot, right? These 15 plus these 8 years, almost 23 years of continuous war between England and France has been happening, right? So because of that, there's not much trade happening within England. Imports have been decreased, exports have been decreased, right? Factories were forcibly shut down. Yeah. Unemployment was growing because machines were taking over men's jobs. Prices of all of these items have been increasing, like food items, basic food items like bread and meat, right? The condition has become much worse for poor people. And in the year 1795, Parliament of Britain actually passed two combination acts, like amendments in the constitution, which made it illegal to incite the people by speech or writing to hatred. What does this mean? It basically is saying, so again, we have two combination laws. What are these two? One is nobody is supposed to talk badly about the king or the constitution or the England government. You're not supposed to talk badly. You're not supposed to promote hatred talks. That's act number one. Then we have act number two, where people are not allowed to gather in public. Yeah, the crowd should not be more than 50 members. If there are more than 50 people, you will be arrested because you don't have the right to form large groups. Very repressive laws. Yeah. Trisha, to answer your question, it's just like normal any other war, right? Like usually why do wars happen? Because these territories, nations wanted to expand their territories, right? But surprisingly, between England and France, it's not because France want to invade England territory or England want to invade France territory. No. By this time, England and France have already become colonial powers. England has already been ruling India, in major parts of India. France also settled in some of the colonies in India, right? So the war is not between mainland England and France, but the war is between England wanted to conquer other territories in the world, like colonize other territories. France is also a colonial power. France also wants to conquer other territories in the world, right? So the conflict is happening there, not in the mainland England, France, right? I hope this clears out your point, Trisha. Okay, so those two acts were passed, and protests nonetheless continued against old corruption. Again, if the government comes and says us not to protest, will we stop? No, right? We will do whatever we want to do. In the same manner, even though the government said that you're not supposed to protest, England people didn't listen to them. They still protested, right? They continued their protest against old corruption. Yeah, because they haven't been satisfied with the parliament. They're not satisfied with these landowners, professionals, manufacturers. These are all richer people. Working class people are not satisfied with them. In fact, they are angry at all of these rich people because rich people are telling the government not to give the workers the right to vote. Obviously, workers will be annoyed, right? Why are they involving in the matters of the government? Yeah, they're unnecessarily poking their nose in between. It's a matter that workers and the parliament have to resolve. But rich people are coming and interfering. So obviously workers did not like that. They hated them, and even for that reason they have been protesting in the streets. Yeah. Okay. Again, talking about the richer people, they supported something called as the Corn Laws. Again, what are Corn Laws? Corn Laws basically state that whatever agricultural production is being done in England, right, they have a certain price to be met. For example, let's take, I don't know, like rice or wheat, right? So this wheat, they'll fix a price for wheat saying that 1 kg of wheat should not be less than 100 rupees, or it should come till 100 rupees. Only if it reaches 100 rupees, then the people are allowed to import the same wheat from other countries. If it is not 100 rupees in the domestic land, people are not supposed to import from other countries, right? So these something economic laws, minimum selling prices, economic terms, right? So that stuff is called as Corn Laws, which are basically not favoring workers, right? And the richer people have been supporting these Corn Laws introduced by the British government, right? So because of that also workers are agitated. And as workers flooded towns and factories, they expressed their anger and frustration in the form of protest. Point noted. Why are they protesting for? Because they want the basic things. They're not even getting the basic things like bread and food, right? They don't have basic materials to eat and survive. That is why they're protesting. And honestly speaking, bread was the staple food item for the poor people, right? So obviously they need bread, but if they're not getting, they'll protest. Again, because of all of these, riots have been happening. The worst year out of them all was 1795, where there was absolutely no food. People were starving to death. But honestly, these protests have been happening till 1840s. Yeah. So that's the situation. We also have another cause of hardship, right? This is one where obviously food was not available. That's one hardship. The other form of hardship is something called as enclosure. It's also called as the enclosure movement, right? I'm basically referring to Industrial Revolution here. Going back to what we talked about in the last class, in the agricultural revolution is where all the farms of the small peasants have been forcibly occupied by the richer peasants, like large landowners, right? Now small farmers don't have any land. Because they don't have any land, they are forced to migrate to the cities, right? So that's called as enclosure movement. Because of that also, that's some kind of hardship for the small peasants, right? Poor rural families affected by this had sought industrial work. That's how they moved to the cities, right? But they worked for a while, but after a while, machines replaced them. They were thrown out of these factories again. Yeah, and once again, they fell into the trap of poverty, right? From the 1790s, these weavers began to demand a legal minimum wage. Yeah, they were like, we'll work for these many hours, pay us this much. That's their demand. But as expected, Parliament did not pay much attention. It refused its demands. Right? And then they went on a strike. They went on a protest, saying this is not fair, we are working but are not getting enough money. Do you honestly think government is going to listen to it? No, right? It's monarchical. And Parliament did not listen to it. England Parliament did not listen to their strikes. In fact, they used violence, force to disperse people of these protests. They are beating them, saying, when we told you not to gather in huge numbers, why are you gathering? That's again a violent means adopted by the Parliament, by the official administrators to repress the demands of the people. Right? So, the outcome is workers were not satisfied. Agitation, frustration, anger, desperateness, helplessness. That's the situation of workers. So what did they do then? One example we look at is in Lancashire. Lancashire is a place. What did cotton weavers do? They destroyed the power looms which they believed had destroyed their livelihood. See, it's not the right way to act because you're destroying something that you yourself own. You own those power looms. Right? They are your power looms. You bought them with your own money. But sometimes out of frustration, we tend to break things. Right? Even us as kids, we throw the remotes or we throw the phones when we are angry or frustrated. That is exactly what people back then also did. They started breaking their own power looms, which is a loss for them. Right? So that is one thing they did. The other thing they did is they resisted in a place called as Nottingham, especially in the woolen knitting industry. Yeah, they were protesting, saying that don't introduce machines into the woolen industry because we are there, we will work, please don't introduce machines. Right? So these protests are also been happening. And then we have in Yorkshire, which is a completely different place, we have something called as the shearing frames. Again, this has basically to do with sheep. Sheep has a lot of, what do you say, the fur on them, right? Usually women or men used to shave this fur off manually, right? But there was a new machine introduced which is called as the shearing frame, where women or like manual labor is not needed. The machine in itself will shave off that fur of the sheep, right? So in Yorkshire also people are protesting, saying that please don't introduce these machines, shearing frames. We are there, we need employment, we will work for you. Yeah. In the riots of 1830, farm laborers found their jobs threatened because in the farms as well, threshing machines have been introduced. Again, initially, in order to separate grain from husk, people used to do it manually, but to do that work now, there has been something called as the threshing machines. Now again, people in the farm industries have been losing their jobs. So the point here is eventually everybody is losing their jobs because machines are replacing their work, replacing their labor. Right? So that's the point. Frustration. What will the rioters do? What will the people do? They smashed all of these machines. That's a loss to the factory because factory has been buying all of these machines. How will the government respond to it? How will the factory owner respond to it? 9 of them were killed for carrying out these irresponsible activities, and 450 of them were actually prisoned, but not in England. They were sent to Australia as prisoners. Right? In response to this, what did workers do? They carried out a movement called as Luddism. Right? Luddism it's a movement led by a charismatic general called as Ned Ludd. Right? He started out this protest saying, you as factory owners are treating us very horribly. Our situations are very, very bad. Right? As people, as humans, we expect some kind of dignity of life, which we are not getting. And therefore, we are demanding for a minimum wage. Let's say we work for 8 hours, pay us the salary for whole 8 hours. Right? Let's not work for 16 hours a day, but let's just work for 10 hours or like 8 hours, right? That these are the demands of these workers. It's a movement led by Ned Ludd. Right? Give back our jobs. We don't need machines. Please give back our jobs. We'll work for you. And please give us the right to form all of these trade unions so that we can present our demands legally in front of the government or the factory owners. These are all the demands made by the people. And this movement is basically led by Ned Ludd. Right? So, yeah. We'll quickly rush through this slide also. During the early years of industrialization, the working population did not have any right to vote, right? It didn't even have like legal methods to express their anger or frustration. Nothing. Yeah. So what happened in August 1819? Almost 80,000 people gathered peacefully. They're not like adopting any violent means. They're not making a ruckus out of it. They're not doing anything harmful. They just gathered at St. Peter's Fields in Manchester. Right? They're being very peaceful, not violent at all. They're trying to claim their own democratic rights. Right? Because they wanted political organizations. They wanted liberty. They wanted fraternity. They wanted the right to hold public meetings. They wanted the freedom of press. Right? They have been demanding all of these things very peacefully at St. Peter's Fields. Right? But the response to this by the government or the police was very bad. Right? They started suppressing it very brutally. They were hitting all of these people. Some people were actually bleeding, injuries, fractures, leg breaks, arm breaks. Right? Very bad response from police. Yeah. It had almost a name after that. This thing was given a name later. It's called as Peterloo Massacre. Right? There's no use honestly because whatever demands they were making, it has all been denied by the parliament in the same year. Right? Even the right to hold meetings was also denied. But there was one thing which was gained out of this protest. Right? 80,000 people gathered. That's a huge thing. Even though they failed miserably, they were successful at one thing. Right? What is that one thing? These liberal political groups, there are some political leaders who are good enough to at least consider the demands of common people. They realized that the parliament needs sensible people to react to the conditions of normal people, commoners. Right? We need to be sensible. We need to understand the conditions of common people. That realization was at least there in the minds of liberal political groups. And secondly, these combination acts, like the two acts which I talked about in the previous slide, they were also revoked in 1824-25. It took time, but finally they were revoked. And all of the credit goes to this peaceful gathering which happened at St. Peter's Field in Manchester, but unluckily it has been repressed very brutally. Right? So I think this is the last subtopic. We just have like 2-3 slides to cover. Give me 5 minutes, guys. We'll wind this up, and then I also have an important announcement to make towards the end. Yeah, so let's just quickly go through reforms through laws. Right? Were there any reforms, or did government just pay a blind eye to the demands of the people? We'll see here. How attentive was the government? That's the question. Did it listen to the demands? Did it ignore the demands? What did it do? We'll look at a list of laws that it has passed. So the first one is laws were passed in 1819 saying that children under 9 years of age are not supposed to work in the factories. It's a good thing. Yeah. 9 is still a lesser age, but something is better than nothing. Right? So children below 9 years of age are not permitted to work in the factories, and even the working hours have been cut down from 16 to 12 hours a day. Something is better. People were demanding from 8 hours, but they settled for a middle ground saying, okay, let's keep it at 12. Yeah. That's what the government passed. That's the law passed by the parliament in the year 1819. But it took almost 14 years for the same thing to be implemented because there's no proper implementation record. People did there were no correct officers or officials or administrators to enforce these laws until 1833. Right? And even in 1833, there was an intense protest by the workers in the northern part of England saying, see, you all passed the law, but still this exploitation is happening. Do something about it. Right? Then the parliament responded, then the administrators responded by saying, okay, fine. So from now, from year 1833, people under 9 years of age are not supposed to work in factories. Right? And even the working hours are reduced to 12 hours a day. Right? And to make sure that these laws are being followed in the factories, there were special factory inspectors recruited to work in the factories to see whether all of these laws are being implemented by the factory workers or not, factory owners or not. Right? So that's one good thing. Yeah. Finally, in the year 1847, after more than 30 years of agitation, the 10 hours bill was passed. Now you only have to work for 10 hours, not 12. Right? So 10 hours thing was there for female workers, male workers, as well as children. These acts apply to the textile industries, but not to the mining industry. There's always a caveat here. Right? This 10-hour thing is only for textile industries, but people working in the mining industries, they still have to work for 12 hours. Right? So what did the Mines Commission of 1842 do? It was actually set up by the government. It revealed that working conditions in mines had actually become worse since the Act of 1833 because more children had been put to work in the coal mines. Improvement is not happening everywhere. Development is only happening in certain fields. For example, textile industries like silk industries, cotton industries. But if you look at the mining industries, the condition is even worse. Right? So development is not even basically. And lastly, last slide, the Mines and Collieries Act of 1842, right? It then banned children under 10 and women from working underground. They can still work in the mining sites, but they're not supposed to go under the ground. Right? So yeah, these laws were to be enforced by factory inspectors, but this was difficult to do, right? Because honestly, all of these factory inspectors recruited by the government, they were easily bribed by the factory owners, right? So even if something bad is happening, even if something wrong is happening, these factory inspectors never reported that to the government, right? Because they were given bribe to shut their mouth. Yeah, so conditions haven't improved much. Okay, so finally that brings us to the end of the chapter and class for today. um, yeah guys, any questions still here, please let me know. I'll clarify for one last time. Please type down your questions in the meanwhile. I have one thing to announce, which I'll say for the last. But before closing, I just wanted to talk something about Bugs Bounty. As most of you all know, it's an Unacademy special feature where all the learners, which is you, get to report any sort of inappropriate content in the video. You can also be the first one to report this issue and claim a prize for that. Report any inappropriate content using the form in the description. Yeah. Um, okay. Time for announcement, guys. I know this is not something that I want to say, but just wanted to let you guys know that I won't be working here from tomorrow. Right? This is my last class teaching you. So I just wanted to thank all of you for being an amazing bunch of students, right? I just had the time of my life teaching all of you guys. It was my first time teaching experience as well. So it was great. And thank you everyone for making this journey fruitful to me. I'm hoping I was able to help all of you at some point of time, right? Um yeah, that is it. I just wanted to thank everybody for attending the classes sincerely every day at 6 p.m. You have been an amazing bunch of students and I highly appreciate that. But yeah, this is going to be my last class for Unacademy. And yeah, so that's it guys. That's all I have from my end. Just wanted to say a gratitude note, thanks notes. Yeah, I don't know, Trisha. I honestly don't have an answer to that. No problem, Priti. All the best for your exam tomorrow. Um in fact, guys, all the best for everyone. Whoever's term one exams are not yet finished, all the best to you guys. Ace your term ones and also ace your final exams of 11th standard, right? Have uh, have a good year, have fun in high school, and all the very best to all of your future endeavors. And I'm hoping everybody will do well in life. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, if you just want to say something as a last note, anything is highly appreciated. Thanks, Trisha. Thanks so much. That means a lot. Okay. Yeah, if that is it, then probably we can end the class. But yeah, not forgetting, in case you all have questions, please feel free to ask. This is the last class we're going to be interacting sorts. So yeah, last 2-3 minutes, we can wind it up after that. Okay, if that is it, then probably I will close. lot, Trisha. That actually means a lot, Trisha. But that's fine. I am hopeful that at some point of time we'll meet again. Yeah. But let's see where life takes us. But cool, then if that's it, then probably I'll end the session. Last word of thank you, and not to forget, if you like the content of these videos, please do like it, share it as much as possible, and also subscribe to the channel Unacademy and Scholars in particular. Yeah, so thanks guys, thank you so much heartfully. You have been a wonderful bunch of students. I had a great time teaching all of you, and I will miss you guys. Thank you, and have a good evening. Have a good days to come. Have all the best. Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.